Hello, Radiant One, and welcome to the Spiritual Business with Maria Saraphina, the show and podcast for soul-driven, heart-based spiritual entrepreneurs and Magdalens rising, ready to grow and expand from within, and wanting to lead with love in business and life. I am your host, spiritual business coach, mentor, catalyst, and facilitator, Maria Saraphina, and it is my deep honor, my great pleasure, and joy to share this episode with you. If you feel the deep stirrings of something new asking to be born through you, go to mariasarafina.com/DCIA to download the free guide, Divine Clarity and Inspired Action that I have created for you. Divine Clarity and Inspired Action will help you connect deeply with your divine feminine essence of gnosis, wisdom, knowledge, and intuition, as well as activate your divine masculine essence of action, creation, expansion, foundation, and building, so that you may experience the satisfaction and the liberation that comes from living your truth, from bringing to life that which you're here to birth, while being, doing, and living your soul's divine purpose. On my website, you will also find show notes, transcripts, and previous episodes. Also, if you're a Magdalene rising or have been called by the Magdalene, you may want to check out my other show and podcast, The Magdalene Voices, where I share sacred conversations with beautiful, illuminating souls, as well as insightful inspiration to nourish every cell of your body, every fiber of your being, every aspect of your soul and existence through lifetimes past, present, and future. You can go to my website, mariasarafina.com, for links to everywhere it's being broadcasted. Finally, as always, I encourage you to listen with an open heart and an open mind, and take only what serves you and leave the rest. I am not your guru, nor am I your teacher. Instead, let me serve you as your guide, your catalyst, and facilitator, so that which you're here to birth might find its expression in the world the only way that it can. Through you. Here is today's episode. Vix, welcome to the Spiritual Business Podcast. Would you please just start by introducing yourself? Tell us who you are, tell us what you do, and who you serve.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I feel so blessed and honored to be invited. As you know, I love your work and I love your podcast. So being invited on is always like very, very exciting, and it just feels like a really big deal. So thank you so much for having me here and allowing me to share my story, or whatever I'm here to share in this conversation.
Yes.
So who am I and what do I do? Just when you asked this question, I just felt something in my body that was like, I don't even know how to answer this question anymore. It used to be really easy. I used to just say, well, I'm a tarot reader. I read tarot for people. I help people to understand why they're here, what their life purpose is. But over the last couple of years, and even more so over the last few months, I feel like what I do is harder and harder to define in words. But in a nutshell, I guess I am a spiritual development teacher. I am a soul reader, which is similar in a lot of ways to the tarot reader that I used to be. But the messages come through these days in so many different ways. So they may come through tarot, they may come through intuitively. There's all sorts of different ways that those messages come in. And instead of reading the cards and saying, well, this card means this card means that, we go to kind of all different places. So we might suddenly see you in 5th century France or like wherever, and start to kind of work through, whatever's coming through, really. So that's kind of, what happens in a soul session. Of course, they're all very different, and we can go to so many different places with that work. And I also run a business mastermind for people who want to do this, like they want to do what we're doing. Whether you are kind of right at the beginning of that journey and you're feeling the nudge and you're feeling like, oh, I think I'm supposed to be doing this, or whether you're kind of already on the journey and you're just looking for some support. I hold space for people in that way as well. So those are kind of the three main things that I do at the moment. But I'm also a writer.
Yes.
I just felt this big like surge of energy that's like, hello, it's not those three things. you're forgetting something.
I was gonna, if you hadn't mentioned it, I was gonna be like, because I've read your book and it's amazing. Yes.
So I do that as well. I write young adult fiction.
Yes.
And I have one book that I have self-published, and I have another book that the first draft is finished. I'm kind of just going through the editing to get that out, hopefully by the end of this year. So hopefully by the end of 2019, that will be existing in the world. And I'm also feeling really called to write a spiritual book. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet, but that's been coming in really strongly. So, you know, depending on when people are listening to this or watching this, that may or may not exist.
Well, be careful, because the thing with me is once you say it out loud in my presence, it's literally just going to come into.
And I think that's part of the reason I felt really called to share that. It's like part of what I do. I feel like that author writer kind of label is something that I have been not willing to fully step into and own. So I'm doing that here.
It's like done deal, stamped.
Yeah.
Yes. And who would you say you serve? Like, who are your people?
Who are my people? Gosh, I feel like the people that I serve are the people who are living in this 3D world and feeling like there's something more. So whether it is, you know, whether somebody's kind of just waking up for the first time and feeling like there's got to be more to life than this, you know, I have ways that I can serve those people, mostly through my free content that I have online. I have free ebooks on how to protect your energy, like all of that stuff that you need when you're kind of just starting to realize there's so much more than just doing the 9 to 5 and watching Netflix and like going partying on the weekend. There's this whole other, like, well, there's so many other layers, but there's so much more going on here. There's so much more to life than doing that. So in a way, like, a lot of my work is kind of a gateway for those people. But then I feel like I sort of hold space for people wherever they're kind of going from there. You know, whether you are just having that awakening and you're going to sit in that energy for a while. I've got lots of tarot spreads and blog posts and all that kind of stuff out there. But I also feel more and more called to also be serving people who are having, like, going through like that next wave. So you know, you have this awakening and you start to get into tarot and oracle cards and crystals, and you start meditating and working with your guides and doing all of that stuff. And then there's like, well, I know for me and a lot of the people that I serve, there's kind of like a plateau at some point where we get comfortable in that space. And then suddenly we're like, oh, okay, like here's the next level, like here's the next kind of awakening, like the next part. So in my my spiritual development group, I kind of work with a lot of those people who are like, okay, where do we go now? Like, I want to start working with the 12 chakra system instead of just the 7 chakra system, and I want to work with galactic energies as well as my spirit guides. So that's kind of I feel like I'm, you know, more and more called to serve those people as well. So I'm here to serve everyone, no matter where you are, really, on that on that path. But I think the thing that all of those people have in common is that there is an awakening. There is a desire to understand yourself, understand the world, why you're here. So, yeah.
Thank you. There's so many ways, there are so many things that I want to go and ask you. And so one of the way that I see it is that it's a continued journey of unveiling. It's like whenever I never thought that my spiritual, development would stop or
or like be like, I'm done. I think quite the opposite. I think if you think that you're done, you literally just gone back to the start.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I expand and grow, the more I see that. And what is my first question going to be? I think my first question is like, first of all, like, one of the reasons you're here, and like my criteria for everyone that I invite to join me in these conversations on this show is truth and alignment and authenticity, as in the non-bullshit, non-glitter, although we do love glitter. I mean, I love I love glitter and gold. I love all of those things. But when it's more of and it's not even honesty. It's just, peeling back the layers and showing what it really is like. And I love about what you shared is also that, I can hear in what you're saying is that, with the writing and the author, I know, because I know how you've, I don't want to say struggled, but how that's been a moving out of your comfort zone, even though it's something that you're so good at, and something I'm going to share links. Whoever's listening to this, there's going to be links. And if Wix's new book has come out, the spiritual book, there'll be a link to that as well. I mean, me, I'll promote you and whatever till the cat, because I'm just like, I'm in love with your work, and who you are and what you do for this world. And just, yeah. It wasn't always like this. How did you have your start in this as a spiritual entrepreneur, like soul driven, heart-based spiritual entrepreneur? How did that start? And what were the challenges or the obstacles or whatever you saw throughout, which is going to be a whole like
like, how much time do you have?
I'm going to skip it and then I'm just going to let you talk. So how did you, I know that you were a teacher before, and that's not even what it's more like, how did you start your spiritual entrepreneurial journey? How did that start for you? And how has it been? What challenges have you seen? What obstacles have you encountered? How did you move through them?
So many. Just as you were talking about this spiritual awakening, I don't know if you've seen the meme, or, those of you who are listening and watching have seen the meme of like what I thought my spiritual awakening was going to look like and what it actually looks like. And there's like what I thought it would be like, and it's all love and light and like, peace. Yes. Angels, and then what it's actually like, and it's like a picture of the tower from the tarot, and there's like, it's on fire and people are falling out.
Yes.
Yep. My journey's been a little bit like that. A bit like that. The tower. And I mean, I couldn't even tell you how many times I've pulled the tower card for myself. I pulled it just last week again as well. Like, okay. But it's been an interesting journey, because in some ways it's felt very easy, and that actually all I've really ever done is just shown up and let myself be guided. And when I've had the guidance, I've followed it most of the time. Sometimes with a great deal of resistance, but like eventually I will get the message and I'll do the thing that I feel called to do. But at the same time, I feel like it's been really hard. And I think this is the thing that comes up for a lot of people, whether you are wanting to run your own business or whether you're just kind of going through the awakening, is just like this feeling of like, it's so much harder in some ways than just kind of going into the 3D mindset and just going through your day and just kind of keeping those veils down and just kind of getting through life as much as you can, with Netflix, with drinking on the weekend, whatever's getting you through. It's like it's really hard to kind of step away from that and say, okay, I'm willing to see the truth. Like there is a real strength that you need to be able to do that.
Yes.
But once you do that, in so many ways, life becomes so much easier.
Yeah.
It's harder, but it's easier, if that makes sense.
And can I just add that I just want to add to those who are watching or who are listening, I want to reiterate for everyone that that strength is within you. Like if you're someone who is listening to this and you're at that point, I just want to say that that strength is within you, and you may be questioning it because, like you say, it's the tower, it's stripping away. That strength is within you. Sorry, I'll zip it.
Yes, I feel that so much, because I never thought of myself as being somebody that could ever do what I do now. Like, I sometimes think about myself back in high school when we were, when you do those tests in high school, it's like, what career would be good for you? And I used to always get like counselor was like one thing that would always come up for me. I think it was like counselor, teacher, like all of these things. And I used to do these tests and I'd be like, I don't want to do any of that. Like, that is so not what I want to do with my life. Like, I wanted to be an actress and I wanted to be a singer. And all the things that came up for me was like, be a teacher. Like, oh, I couldn't think of anything worse when I was in high school. But if someone had come into that room and said, you're going to be a tarot reader, you're going to be a spiritual development teacher, you're going to run a program for people who are going to run spiritual business, you're going to help other people to do that, I would have just been like, what? Like, you're crazy. Like, that is also definitely not the path for me. So it's really, it sort of blows my mind sometimes that I'm here. I never thought that I was particularly psychic. I never thought I was very confident in talking to people or about myself or what I was, interested in. And I certainly didn't feel like I had any ability to run a business. Like, that would never have crossed my mind. So, like you're saying, people who are listening to this and thinking, I really want to do this, like I really want to do this work, but I feel like I'm so not the person for it. I'm like a living example. Like, if I can do it, like, anybody can do it, really.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
And I know that for a while you were a teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yes.
how did you start? Did you jump fully in, or did you like start doing weekends? Something else I just want to point out in terms of what you said is that I love, because one of the things that I see in terms of spirituality today is that, so in, I don't want to say old days, but like when the New Age movement really started, it was a lot about, like you said, having the card, saying what it meant, the cards meant, and reading that out loud, or having the crystals and knowing what that crystal meant, and having all the divination tools that we have, and being very quote unquote specific in terms of their origin and what they meant. And to me, what I see now is that there is a shift in that it's no longer the meaning, like the ascribed meaning of the thing, but more of the intuitive. And there seems to be, it seems to be as though our intuitive gifts are being expanded so that we're able to pull through messages from several places using that tool. Does that make sense? And so to me, and not to say like if anyone's listening and they're a tarot reader and they just do that, that's fine. It's not, but I do also see that there's a shift in the way that we're no longer attached to the way that the norms are, like that you have to. This goes whether it's numerology or astrology or any of the other many different tools that you can use on your journey. And I know that for you, I know that because we've talked about this before, how that was difficult, because a lot of the old school way was coming up. However, how did you have your start? Did you just jump out full? Like, did you quit your job and go jump in, or did you like start on the weekends and the nights, or how did it happen for you? How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, I don't really know. So the first thing that happened was I was kind of going through a bit of an awakening myself, and I was somebody who I feel like, and I just want to say, when I'm using the word awakening, I don't feel like it's 1 minute you're asleep and the next minute you're awake. I think there's so many ways that we wake up. We're waking up more and more, like every day.
Yeah.
But I have always, like pretty much my whole life since I've been in this body, been spiritual in some way. Like I've always believed in some kind of God, creator, source energy that I could communicate with and connect with. I've always believed in an afterlife. I've always believed in beings who could support me and help me. I've always believed in the ability to receive messages through divination, other ways. Like even when I was really young, like I always felt like that world existed. So it wasn't like I was just kind of, asleep and then suddenly this magical angel appeared to me and told me like the secrets of the universe. Like it certainly didn't happen like that. I bought my first tarot deck when I was in my early 20s. I had in my teens, I used to use, like I had a set of runes and I would read witchy books. I was into Wicca for a while in my teenage years as well. So I was into Wicca for a while, and then I got into Christianity. I did that for a few years. And then I left the church and I kind of went on my own way for a while. I did a lot of traveling and sort of soul searching, not necessarily spiritual soul searching, but lots of traveling and kind of, trying to find myself, as many of us do when we're in our early 20s. And I moved in with a group of girls into this like group house in Sydney, and one of the girls had a tarot deck and she would like read for us, and I was like, oh my god, like this is amazing, like tarot is the best thing in the world. I eventually went and bought my own deck, got it home, and I felt like, yes, this is it. Like this is my landline to the divine. Like this is how I can talk to the thing that I always knew was around me. And I just like couldn't read the cards. I was just like had them all out. I was trying to like read the guidebook, trying to read the little white book, trying to understand what was going on, and I just struggled like big time. And I got those cards out like time and time again, and I just never really felt like I was getting it. So I could do a reading for somebody, and I did some really accurate readings for friends, but it was always with the book. So I'd be like, okay, let me check what this means. And then we'd read from the book and they'd be like, oh yes, that's exactly what's going on for me. And then those cards kind of like went into the drawer, and occasionally they'd get pulled out, like now and then. But around the year 2012, which some of you listening may know that's kind of like a big year spiritually. Yeah. I was kind of really getting the call to go back to my spiritual path, like really kind of get back into all that stuff that I used to be into, but I kind of let it all fade away a little bit. I was also going through some things in my life that were challenging as well. Like I'd moved back over here to the UK, and I was kind of just trying to work out like what am I supposed to be doing with my life really. And so I was like, I'm going to get the tarot deck back out. I'm going to see if maybe this is the time.
Yes. And
I think it was like the next year, like 2013, I think, where I had this really beautiful moment where I was like, okay, this is it. Like I'm going to learn tarot now. And I remember sitting on the floor of the house I was living in at the time, and I had bought a new tarot deck actually, because I was like, oh, maybe the old deck doesn't work, maybe I need some new energy. So I bought a new deck, and I bought a book on how to read tarot, and I sat there with the deck and the book, and I started shuffling the cards, and I was about to kind of go to the book, and I just heard this voice within me kind of say, put the book away. I was like, okay, fine, I'll put the book away. And then I started turning over cards, and I just started, it was like I was having this kind of remembering, and I just started to be able to see in the cards, like I wasn't looking at the book, I wasn't looking at what someone else was telling me these cards meant. It was like, oh, here's the Ace of Cups. Like, oh, that feels beautiful. That feels abundant. That feels like alive and beautiful. And I just started to go through the deck and create all these meanings like for myself. And then within like the space of half an hour, I was doing Celtic crosses, I was doing full readings, and I was like, it was like it all just sort of, it was kind of like remembering, but it was also kind of just like my crown chakra just opened up, and it was like, here's how to read tarot. Here's your
Download.
on like how to read tarot. I was like, oh, okay. And it was like just this one afternoon where it was like, okay, now I get it. Now I get it. Now I get how to read tarot. And this is like, 10 years have passed since I bought my first tarot deck.
Yes.
So for people who are listening to this who are like, yeah, I have a tarot deck, but I'm really struggling with it, like, don't give up.
Yeah.
So that kind of happened. And then, after a while of kind of getting back into the tarot, and I did read some more tarot books and get into like all these tarot communities online and things like that. I started a blog, which was essentially me sharing about my journey with the tarot and me sharing, hey, I'm getting back into tarot. This is what I think of this card, and this is what I think of these other cards. And I started to share some of those blog posts, and people started to resonate with them. And then I kind of started to get the guidance to do some readings for people. And so I did 100 free readings, which I know is a lot. Whenever I say that to people, especially people who want to do this work, they're like, 100 free readings, like, I wouldn't, like, that's a lot. It was a lot, but in doing that, I feel like I set the foundation for my business.
Yeah.
So I did do them for free, but I did them in exchange for feedback. So some people didn't give me feedback, which is going to happen when you're doing, giving something away like that. But most people did. And each time somebody gave me feedback and said, this was really helpful, this was really useful, thank you, this was accurate, this was great. Each time somebody said that, it was like another kind of, like tile was being laid for the foundation for my business. So once I'd done 100 readings, I was like, okay, I feel ready to charge some money for this now. So then I started to, and I didn't charge very much at the start. And this is all still when I was working full time in teaching as well. So I didn't charge very much. I think I was charging like £20 for like a full reading or something like that. And to be totally honest with you, like the first few months, the first year was very slow. Like it was a lot of, I don't love to use the word hustling, but there was a lot of hustle. There was a lot of like sharing on Instagram, doing free lives on Instagram, and on Periscope and Facebook and like all the places that Periscope that we used to use, like it feels like another lifetime. But I was constantly showing up. I was writing blog posts. I was connecting with other tarot readers online. Like I was really, maybe a better word instead of hustling, it's like showing up. Like I was showing up constantly to do this work.
Would you say that, because would you say that was done from a space of fear or from a space of love?
I think there were times when I was showing up because I felt like I need to show people what I can do, and this is going to help me in my business. And there were other times where I got more into like that hustle energy of like, I have to do this or my business won't work. And that was definitely like the fear.
Yes.
Yeah.
The reason I ask is because I love that you share that. And I think that everyone in the beginning of their journey has the hustling. Because to me, and this, one of the things that I'm very adamant about is the rise of the divine masculine as our divine feminine rises. And what I see is that the divine feminine is where we receive our gifts, or where our gifts are, like our senses are expanded and all that. We receive all that download, the wisdom, the knowledge, the gnosis. However, having been conditioned by the shadow masculine and the hustling and the way of doing things, there's a lot of us that don't do because we don't want to do from that space. And so when we begin doing, we are going to have moments of that. There are going to be moments where we're still in that, until we realize, oh, I'm in the hustling energy. I better change this. I better and then we can call that back and come into what I call the divine masculine essence of doing, of action, of organizing, of creation, and so forth. Okay. And so you started, yes. And then, go ahead. And then what?
Yeah. I love that you shared that, because there's so much information, memes, like all of this stuff out there for people who are running businesses and it's all about like, girl, go hustle. Like, and I do feel like there is that, like you said, with the feminine and the masculine, like we have to show up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know some people have successful careers doing this, but most people don't. We can't just sit in the meditation pillow and just be like, I'm calling in whoever needs to find my business. Although I know that does happen for you a lot. And it does happen for some of us, but we also have to like...
Hold on. What?
You don't do that? I feel like people just find you. That was how I found you. It was like this, like magical. It was like
yes.
I wasn't looking for you. I just like suddenly you were in my life.
Yes. Oh yeah. However, I love that. Yes. So that is the way it is today.
Okay. Yeah.
The way it used to be is exactly what you said, and the reason why I don't know how it'll be when people see this or hear this or when you hear this. The reason why my presence on social media is very limited is because and full with client. I don't have quote unquote the time for it, and I probably should be hiring an assistant and all that, which I will get to and all that. No, let me just clarify that. I love that you mentioned that. You would not have been able to find me had I not done my work, had I not been showing up, had I not been sharing blog posts, had I not been doing social media, had I not been consistent, had I not been all these different things that you're and also so when I say consistent, it's also be sure that you're aligned, take time to rest, self-care and all that as well. I'm not saying hustle. What I am saying is exactly what you said, is that show up, and that does involve creation, that does involve the divine masculine, that does involve connection and reaching out and collect. So no.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna because I was, as you were saying that, I was like, that's so interesting. I wonder who just sits down and meditates. And for me, because now I work with and for the energy alignment method as well, and which is is a method where you use it's essentially quote unquote not just the law of attraction, because there's more universal law than just the law of attraction. But what people seems to have forgotten about the law of attraction, quote unquote, is the action part. Like there is actually, I know that spiritually advanced masters, like, Yeshua and the 12 and whatever, they are able to call in that. I'm not at that level at all. I'm far from. So we still have to, and I think us in the world, and I think it's doing a disservice, the idea that you can just think your way through it. And without the action part, I think that's gotten lost. So if the gap between where you are and where you want to go, if that's too big, then you won't be able to get there, because the fear, the limiting beliefs, the thoughts, the ideas. And this is something that I share very often with my clients, is that I like to expand through love. And that's not to say that I don't even know that if I want to go there, but if where you're at is, $1,000 and you want to get to $1 million, and the span between those two, the gap is too big, the chances of you getting there, for me, is very small. So you expand bit by bit by bit by bit by bit by bit. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that to me yes, it happens through alignment, but it also happens through aligned action, inspired action. And, so I think we I do. I'm sorry. It's just, I was like, I was thinking, I'm wondering who are those people?
I do come across those people sometimes.
And do they then sell other things than what they have? Are they in alignment? Are they truthful?
I know there are people out there who are running businesses where they don't even really necessarily have a website or a social media presence, but they have like somewhere for people to find them.
Yes.
So whether it is that they run a workshop, or whether it is I'm at this new age shop at these times, or I've got a little business card that you've picked up somewhere along the way. Like there is some way for you to find those people.
Yes.
Otherwise you're just like walking around like trying to find the door to knock on to like find your person.
Yes.
But there's a lot of this old belief out there as well. I've heard lots of people say this in like the tarot community, Like, if you're good at your job, people will find you. So if you do a good, like, I think the idea here is that you do a really great reading, and that person then goes and tells 5 of their friends, and then those people contact you, and like, you never have to advertise, or you never have to tell anyone. And I think for some people who are working at that vibration, I think that's great, you know, but then you're still showing up because you're still showing up to do a good reading.
Yes.
But I feel like more and more in the world as it is right now, and the way that the energy is right now, like, the easier it is for people to find you, the better it is for them, for you to be of service. So for me personally, I feel like showing up is such a huge part of the work. And you know, I speak to so many people who, they don't want to show up because they see it as hustling, they see it as like the negative masculine, the old paradigm, all that stuff that hasn't been working for us, and they don't want to do that. They don't want to be on social media, they don't want to show up, they don't want to do free stuff because they see it as like marketing and promotion, and that makes them feel like, I don't want to do that. And so I've seen people who are so like anti that old world, that they then go into this place of, well, I'm just going to connect with the Magdalene energy and sit here on the meditation pillow and just trust that people will find me if they're supposed to find me. But you know, like you said, but then I know for some people that does work sometimes. But like, make it easy for people to find you as well.
I have clients who don't have a website. They don't have like a list of hundreds of people. They know a few people. They still feel feel their courses. That you know, most of them do want to take it online. Most of them do want to expand, and so, you know, in order to reach more people, that's the beauty of the tool we have. And also, I totally get the whole not wanting to do from that space, because I know that for me, that's when my last dark night of the soul was, and I think this was beginning mid of 16 is when I chose to stop doing anything, because I knew that the divine feminine within, I didn't know at that time that was what it was, but I knew that I was coming from a space of love, but I also knew that my doing was not coming from a space of love. So which is not something I recommend if you have a business to stop doing, because it wasn't very, I was fortunate to be able to have funds that I could draw from. But other than that, it was just, I stopped doing until I knew that my doing and my actions came from a space of love. And that's what I've been working towards ever since, and still do, trying to find where I'm out of alignment with that in terms of my doing. And I see that in so many, in so many people. So I totally get that space. When did you, so you were doing this on the side with a full-time job. When did one take over the other?
It was sort of a slow process. I was doing my readings mostly on the weekends. There was like a year where I didn't have a weekend. I was working, and as much as sometimes I was in that hustle energy of like, I'm pushing myself too far, I should take a break. At the same time, a lot of it was like, I was showing up because I loved it. I loved the work and I wanted to be doing the work. And a lot of the time it didn't feel like work because I was really enjoying it. I was enjoying creating the content. I was enjoying doing readings for people. So after a while, I did start to finally eventually sell some readings. So that was great. And then I managed to get to teaching 4 days a week, and I took 1 day for my business. And that was kind of the first thing, because I started to feel like, well, I'm doing this many readings on the weekend and after work, but I'm exhausted from that, but also I don't have the space to grow this. Like, I don't have the space to even see if this could become like a full-time thing. So I took that extra day, and I made that whole day just being like for business stuff. And I did that. I think I did that for quite a few months. I can't remember exactly how long that was, but that was quite a few months that I was doing that for. And then it started to kind of come up towards the summer holidays in the UK. And because that was the thing as well, being a teacher, like my school holidays, my half terms were always spent working, which was a blessing really, that I had like, oh, okay, it's 6 weeks of work and then I've got this week off to work on my business, which was amazing. So the school holidays were coming up and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to I'm just going to go all in with my business. I've got 6 weeks or however long the school holidays are here. It's about 6 weeks. I'm just going to go all in with my business. I'm just going to work every day, like as if this was my business and this was my job and this is what I do. And at the end of this time, I'm going to see where I'm at. And if it's going okay, I'm not going to go back to teaching. But I always had in the back of my mind, if it doesn't work out, it's okay. I can go back to teaching. Like, it's not going to be the end of the world. So I kind of got to the end of the summer holidays and I was kind of earning like just enough to scrape by. And I was like, I'm just going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep making these sacrifices. And I did make a lot of sacrifices. And I see this as something that a lot of people don't really seem to want to do. And if you don't have to, then that's great. But a lot of people don't want to make sacrifices. People don't want to be like, well, you know what, your salary is going to be halved for the first year. But it means you get to stay home and do something you really love for your job. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to take that. Like, I'm going to take the money that I'm earning and say, okay, no buying new clothes, no buying new nail polish, like no going out on the weekends for a while. I'm just going to be really frugal, but I'm just going to put everything I have into my business. And, you know, and it worked. And then, you know, that first year was pretty tough and it was pretty like close. In terms of getting everything paid for. But I did it. And then the next year my income grew and then the next year it grew again. And, you know, now I'm earning more than I was earning as a teacher. And so that's great. I'm really excited about that. But I did have to make sacrifices to get here. And I think sometimes, you know, I see people online who are talking about starting their business and they're just like, oh, I'm just going to like jump in. I'm just going to go all in. I'm going to make it work. I'm going to be abundant. I'm going to be prosperous. And I think that's great if that's how it works. But for me, it was about being frugal and making sacrifices so that I could do something that I really loved. And in the end, when I was having these months where I was like, I'm not spending any money, I'm just working, I felt more free and more abundant and more prosperous doing that than I did when I was earning twice as much, but I was having to go to a job that didn't feel in alignment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've recently noticed, because I'm beginning to get to that place as well. And for me, and when I say that, that's because the job that I had before I started doing this, I made a shit ton of money every month. I made it was a 6-figure. So but now there's a difference in the frequency and the vibration of the money that I do receive. And there's a deeper satisfaction. There's a deeper joy. And yes, things are easier. Like, they're way easier than they used to be. And then one of my challenges has been having to allow that, like, oh, things can be easy. Because I know for you, like, that's where we differ. Like, for you, it's quote unquote was easy, but not where I felt like I was stumbling all the time. And allowing things to be easy is another level of expansion and growth for me. Because like, is it really okay for things to just flow, like to just your bank account just be filled? And it's not just the bank account, but when I say abundance, like the abundance in the clients, like the level of readiness, the willingness, the work, the easiness with which we work, the easiness with which they find me because of all I've done in the past. And so that has been my next level of expansion is leaning into that, allowing it to be easy when you've been used to struggle and challenges and issues for a long while. Not to say that everything's just, because I was the same as you in terms of, oh, now, you know, I have this connection, you know, heavens are going to open, angels are going to descend, rose petals are going to be strewn. I know I want to choose love. And then it's like, just everything's just mayhem and being pulled up by the roots I guess the word for me is the joy and the satisfaction. is at a whole nother level. Yeah. I'm just wondering if there's anything else. Is there anything else that wants to be shared or said? Where do you see yourself going? Well, you've already shared in terms of the writing, but because one of the things for me as well is like, as I grow and my business and my work is more and more, my capacity becomes quote unquote limited. That's one of the reasons why I've now expanded this podcast, is because I want to make sure that the wisdom, the knowledge, the experience that we have is still shared, whether it be through these conversations or, the one, not the one-on-ones, but the single or solo episodes that I do. I want to make sure that that is still shared, so that someone someday may find it useful and take that guidance or advice or suggestions and then run with it and create their own thing. Just wondering, is there anything else? Because I feel like you've shared your whole journey. Is there anything else that comes up for you that you want to share about where you're going or where you see this? Do you even
in terms of like where I'm going, it changes all the time. And if you'd asked me, if you'd asked me that question a year ago, or if you'd asked me that question 2 years ago, I would have said, I want to be the next whoever, like super successful spiritual author who's selling like millions of copies and doing talks all around the world and whatever. But I don't feel quite as in alignment with that as I used to. I feel like in terms of where I'm going, I'm just going to go where I'm called to go, which is which is hard, because when we get into that ego, we're like, well, I want this and I want that, and I want to write this many books, and I want this many people to read, and I want it on the shelves in these shops, and I want this, and I want it to look like that, and I want to live in a big house and this and whatever. And I mean, I'm all for manifesting and visualizing where I'm all for that.
Yeah.
But there's also something just really powerful and magical about just saying, I'm going to go where I'm called to go. And if I'm called to go to, my books being read by loads of people, then I will go there. And if I'm called to just write books for a handful of people who are going to need that information, then, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. I think you touch upon probably one of the most crucial parts of our awakening journey is the surrender. Because there's only so much we can do, and I say that there's only so much we can do, and then there's also the trust and the surrender in allowing that which is to come through us. And also understanding, because for me, I know this past year, and we were recording this in September of 19, my mind has been literally blown day by day by day by day about what's possible. And I keep seeing how I keep feeling like, oh, I thought I knew, and now I don't know. I thought I knew, and I don't know shit. I thought I knew about what is really, really possible when we're in full alignment with who we are, when we do the work. And I keep having this, oh, I thought I knew, and both in terms of myself and what I'm capable of, and what's being delivered at my doorstep. I hope I didn't scare anyone by my outburst of, it's not because things are being delivered to me. It's just, I think it's, maybe it's just still within me that those 5 steps or 5 easy blah blah blah, or 5 quick whatever blah blah blah, and it's important to me that, because I know that you can look at someone and we can be perceived, both you and I can be perceived as, oh, they have it all, and it was just, and that's it, essentially down to the core why I share these episodes, is for those who, and maybe they'll never watch or see these because they want to be stuck in their own perception of things and blaming, like, oh, they have it so easy, is to show that it has been a journey, and we have been where they're at, or we have been through those times. so that it doesn't end up being all glitter and glamour and blah, blah, blah. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes absolute sense.
Yeah. So I want to thank you for coming on to share your journey. I mean, I love that you found me, and I love that you reached out. I love that I love that. And I've been part of your things as well. And it's just, I'm getting emotional. I just feel so blessed for being in the space of someone who really gets it in terms of, love is the way, and this is how we do it.
Mm-hmm.
This is how we do it. Is that not a song for me? Now I just revealed my age.
I love that song.
Thank you, Vix. And I want to say to everyone who's listening or watching that there will be links to the show notes where you can find links to Vix's page, to her books, to her everything. And I have read her first young adult novel. I have reviewed it. I love it. I'm actually probably going to read it again over the weekend because it's just so good. So if you're into that, you have to be into that, of course. But if you're into that whole thing, then it's just, beautiful. So Vix, thank you for coming on and for sharing your wisdom, for sharing your truth, and for sharing your journey.
Thank you so much for having me.
That is what I had for you in today's episode of The Spiritual Business with Maria Saraphina. I hope it served you well. For all the deeds and details, click the link in the description. And if you enjoyed this episode, I hope that you will support its message by sharing it with a friend or on social media. You can also leave me a comment or a review so that the love shared within this episode is rippled further out into the world. I love you. God bless.